Hi, my name's Robbie Alexander and this is my river roundup. G'day folks, now that you got your head around that intro, welcome to Robbie's River Roundup for Friday the 17th of April 2015, proudly brought to you by Adventure Camping and Fishing at 14 Rowan Street, Wangaratta, where they are now a stockist of Hunter's Element apparel, Hunter's Element jackets, Hunter's Element shirts, backpacks, bum bags, bum cracks, the whole lot. If you like Hunter's Element apparel, get into Adventure Camping and Fishing and check out what they've got. I'm up here at Lake William Hovell. Have a look at this. This is one of my favourite places on the entire planet. I just absolutely love it up here. I'm at an altitude of around about 450 metres, 500 metres above sea level here, similar to what Ballarat is, I guess, sort of set against these higher mountains. It's quite a cold place up here in the winter. I've actually seen these leaves all frozen on a really heavy frost like it was snowing one day. I was up here fishing one day in my kayak. It was probably 3 or 4 degrees. I paddled across the lake. I was actually talking to the copper from down at Whitfield on that day actually, and had a bit of a chat to him. He thought I was a bit mad, but anyway, it was raining. I paddled across the lake. It poured rain. Then the rain cleared, the clouds cleared, the fog lifted, and all these hills were white with snow. I thought it was a bit cold that day. Anyway, how are the rivers looking? Well, I don't know whether it's worth me even making or putting together a river roundup this week, because at the moment they're looking fantastic, so I'm going to sound like the same as I said last week, but there could be change on the horizon. There is a huge amount of rain forecast for this area for tomorrow or for this weekend. Whether we get that rain or not, we don't know. The Bureau of Meteorology are quite confident that we're going to get between 20 to 40 millimetres, which is sort of anywhere between 1 and 2 inches. If we do, it's going to be fantastic, because that'll bring up the streams and allow the trout to migrate further upstream, which could increase better spawning opportunities. Also, it could make the little seasonal streams that only flow 8 or 9 months of the year, make them start flowing again, and the trout can even swim up them and spawn, provided they've got a decent flow of water. In saying all this, we might get 2 drops of rain too. That's what often happens, unfortunately. But for now, the rivers are looking fantastic. The lower levels, the lower reaches of all the rivers are really clear. The middle stretches, the upper stretches, they're all fantastic. I fished the King River and the Ovens River on Sunday with a mate, and we walked for miles, and I've never seen either of the Ovens or the King Rivers looking so wonderful. They just look absolutely pristine at the moment. At one stage I was casting a great big #1 stump jumpers, probably 20 or 30 metres across the river, and reeling it in, and I could see that lure the whole time it was coming in. Now that's probably getting down 12 or 13 feet on a cast that length, and I could still see it under the water. I was using a bright lure, a fluorescent green thump jumper, but it's still indicative of just how clear the water is. We never caught a single fish, but that didn't matter because the river was just so nice. It was just a pleasure to be there. I've been trout fishing in the last couple of weeks and I've caught quite a few trout. The trout are really active at the moment. Now, something I will mention this week about the small streams. Every week I say the small streams are low, and they are low. A lot of them are dried up, unfortunately. But what I've noticed lately, and I thought I was going a bit mad, is that some of these smaller streams have actually got a little bit of an increased flow. Some of them are a bit higher, some that were dried up. The section where the creek had dried has now moved downstream a little bit, and the upstream part of it's flowing a bit more than what it was a couple of weeks ago. And it's not just 1 or 2 creeks, it's most of the streams in the area have got like a better flow than what they had. I remember one particular stream here a couple of months ago, I was fishing it and didn't do any good, and I thought this is going to be stuffed by the end of March. But we get to the end of March and suddenly there's more water in it now than what there was 2 months ago. Now I was talking to a young friend of mine, Will O'Connor. G'day Will. Will's a champion young bloke from Beechworth, and he's a bloody talented young writer for North East Angler Fishing magazine. But I was talking to Will during the week, and he's noticed the same thing. Now Will seems to think that it could have a lot to do with irrigation. Perhaps the farmers aren't pumping as much water out of the creeks, allowing more water to flow down, and I think he could be right on the money. I was actually thinking that perhaps now that it's not so hot and the air's not as hot, the ground's not as hot, the evaporation rate is probably a lot less. So it could be that, it could be Will's suggestion of the farmers, it could be a combination of both, I'm not sure. But either way, the trout streams are looking better now than what they were 6 or 8 weeks ago, and that's without any rain. Mind you, they are still low, and some of the ones that are very low are still not looking good at all, but the water is nice and cool, the trout are surviving, and if we get this rain this week, then everything is just going to be fantastic in the world of trout fishing. So I'm a bit distracted, I can hear the water coming out of the fluffer valve. You can probably just make it out down there. This lake they used to pull the pin out of this lake in late November, early December, and send a lot of water down the river for irrigation all year for the tobacco. But they pulled the pin on the tobacco quite a few years ago now, and now the lake remains full for most of the year, and the water actually flows over the wall. The problem with that is it's very, very warm because it bakes in the sun, and I think that's one of the main reasons that the King River is not the trout fishery that it used to be. Even when they start letting water out of the lake, it'll come over the top and out for a while until there's not enough flow, and then it all comes out of the lake. But then it's normally a pretty low flow then, because there's not as much irrigation demand, and it's more of an environmental thing, so it warms up as it goes down the valley. But anyway, at the moment it's quite low, and it's just a magical place. I actually saw a trout rise just over there before when I first got here. Just beautiful. Anyway, just before I go, I was going to tell you what happened to me last night. You wouldn't read about this. I went out for tea, I went out for dinner with a group of cannibals. They told me to get to the Pinson Hotel to have tea around about 6 o'clock. Unfortunately, I got held up at work and didn't get there till 6:30, and I was so angry that they gave me the cold shoulder. That's terrible. Sorry folks, that's the best I could come up with. I hope you all have a great week. Remember, if you want some Hunter's Element apparel, adventure camping and fishing now, have it all in stock. Have a great week. Good luck on the water. Let's see what the weather gods bring us this weekend, and hopefully I'll have a completely different river roundup next week. Have a great one.